Finally, time to get into some of the nitty-gritty with Zack Snyder's Justice League. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. We gave you a non-spoiler look into the Snyder Cut, and now we are back with a more in-depth look into the film as we dive into some of our favorite Easter eggs from it. Join me as we count down the top 10 Easter eggs you missed in Zack Snyder's Justice League. And be sure to let me know if there are any that you love that we may have missed in this video. After all, it is a 4-hour movie. There are definitely more than 10 Easter eggs in there. Also, before we jump in, as we are diving into the film in some more detail in this list, just a warning that there may be some spoilers ahead, so if you haven't watched the film yourself yet, proceed with caution. Also, go watch it when you get the time. It's definitely worth the 4 hours in my humble opinion. Alright, now let's get counting. Number 10. Arch of Aquaman. When Bruce first enters the village, he is shown walking towards an arch, which he must pass under to get into the town hall, or the ale house, I don't know, the building where he meets Aquaman, as the Icelandic villagers watch his approach with cautious and judgmental eyes. This arch that he must pass under mirrors Aquaman's symbol when it comes to its very specific shape and bend. It also seems to be decorated and marked with tridents. If you look at the decorative ornament that dangles from its center peak, you'll notice swirling symbols, possibly meant to represent the sea, alternate with symbols meant to represent Aquaman's trident. Number 9. Statue of Themis. Near the beginning of Wonder Woman's fight scene, where she stops a group from terrorizing a bank and the hostages that they hold there, we see her standing on a statue. The statue is of Themis, which is very fitting considering that the goddess Themis definitely seems to have been inspiration for the name of Wonder Woman's homeland, Themyscira. I mean, her name is literally contained in the name of the island. Themis was a member of the Titans, a powerful group of Greek gods that existed before the likes of Zeus and Hera. Themis means divine law, and she herself is known as the Lady of Good Counsel, who stands for fairness and divine order. Hence the scales we see the statue holding, and the sword which she holds in her other hand to help protect and defend that lawful balance. Alright friends, before we jump into our next spot, if you are enjoying this list and you are loving the Snyder Cut as much as I am, please give this list a thumbs up. It really does help us out here at the channel. Thank you. Number 8. Ben Parker. It seems Ben Parker cannot escape his death in any universe. Eagle-eyed fans may have noticed a very specific name acknowledged on the Wall of Heroes, which we got a few more seconds to look at when a shot lingered on the unconscious Flash after he is tossed into the wall and then is briefly seen slumped up against it. The name belongs to none other than Peter Parker's famous uncle, Ben Parker.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
It could just be a coincidence, but hey, this is an Easter egg list, and to us passionate fans who love the hunt for these little gems, even the smallest thing is never a coincidence. The other names we see on the Wall of Heroes are a little bit more mysterious in terms of where they're from or if they mean anything, but this one stands out like a sore or dead thumb. Number 7. Central City Tribune. Flash's hometown in the comics happens to be Central City, a city that is sometimes compared to the real world of St. Louis. In the film, we see Central City referred to as the city where Barry is based in and is from. Not only that, we also later discover that the city's local paper is the Central City Tribune, which is definitely a reference to one of the names for their local paper, which also comes up actually in the Arrowverse as well. Fun facts. The Central City News is also sometimes brought to you via picture news, depending on what comic you are reading or on which Earth the story is set in. Gotham City often has the Gotham Gazette, and of course, Metropolis has one of the most well-known papers, the Daily Planet. Gotham City also sometimes has the Gotham Globe, but that's like paper that's from Gotham but is also like a global paper, hence the name, the Gotham Globe. Oh. Number 6. Slow-mo shell casing. This is a shot that calls back to a moment that originally inspired young Bruce to dedicate himself to justice and an ongoing fight to protect the civilians of Gotham City. The slow motion shot of a shell casing bouncing is also something Zack Snyder brought to our minds when it came to the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne, as shown in Batman v Superman. So of course, it's only fitting that we revisit a similar shot when Batman leads his team into battle, where we also get another shot that is very similar to that one. More bouncing shell cases in slow motion. Obviously, this is an imagery that is heavily tied to Batman's growth, evolution, and development. Number 5. Lois's Importance. Lois Lane is highlighted as being a very important character in Zack Snyder's Justice League, so important in fact that Martian Manhunter disguises himself as Martha Kent to talk to Lois Lane and reassure her of her own value and importance in the world. And important enough for Batman to obsess somewhat about Lois and what her importance means after an alternate version of Barry Allen Allen previously mentioned this to Batman. We find out in the Snyder Cut that it is Lois's death which will cause the Nightmare-verse to exist, and that Lois is pregnant. Snyder would later reveal Lois and Clark's son is actually destined to become the new Batman in his story, and that her death is actually what causes Superman to give in to Darkseid's anti-life equation and join the side of evil. So yeah, pretty important. Of all of these little hints that we see to the future are Easter eggs to a continued plot that we may never get to see on screen actually, but boy does it sound interesting and exciting, if we were to get to see it. Number 4. Lois's pregnancy test. The brand of pregnancy test that Lois uses, by the way, is force majeure, which is French for unforeseeable circumstances. Not just a fitting name for a brand of pregnancy tests, but also a fitting name in general for Lois's own future, which could be unforeseeable because she will die, or uncertain because we are basically set up to be at a crossroads following this film, where either everything will head the way of the Nightmare-verse or all of reality will be saved from that hellish existence. TBD. Number 3. You are not alone. Not so much an Easter egg as a tribute, but one that I think is still immensely important, so I figured I would touch on it here. After Bruce recruits Barry Allen, the two get in his fancy car and speed onto the highway, heading to his jet. As they do, a billboard can be seen in the background that clearly reads "You are not alone" and is an ad for the America Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Obviously, with the tragedy that Zack, his wife Debbie, and his whole family suffered, it makes sense that the film would still be infused with this sense of awareness, promoting the importance of open conversations surrounding mental health, anxiety, and depression, opening up about their own personal tragedy involving their daughter Autumn, whom the film was dedicated to. The Snyders have championed this cause and been advocates for the importance of mental health awareness, something that I agree is so important to talk about and draw attention to. Number 2. Batfleck's solo film. That we'll probably never see, to be honest. This is a setup, however, with the appearance of Deathstroke near the end of the film. In the original theatrical release of the film, which some are now referring to by the hashtag Justice League, Lex invites Deathstroke to his yacht to suggest they create a league of their own, implying a potential in Justice League team-up or even feature film. However, the original scene prior to Whedon's influence appears in the Snyder Cut, and was even confirmed by actor Joe Manganiello, who plays Deathstroke, as the original scene. This is what it was supposed to be. Here we instead see Deathstroke reveal that he's been hunting Batman, and it's even been implied that it might actually have been Batman who cost him his eye. This is an obvious setup for Ben Affleck's solo Batman film that was meant to happen but ultimately got cancelled. We don't know what the future will hold and if we'll ever see this project possibly get resurrected, but if it does, we now know that there is a good chance that we would likely see Deathstroke as Batman's main antagonist. Number 1. Adam. That's right, we got a pretty fantastic Easter egg that could lead, or could have led, into Adam's appearance in the DCEU with Ryan Choi, Silas Stone's right-hand man at Star Labs. Ryan Choi is played by Ryan Zhang in the film and is known from the comics to become the hero known as the Atom. He is the second person to take up that mantle after hero Ray Palmer. In the comics, Ryan was introduced during Rebirth, credited with being created by Gail Simone, Grant Morrison, and Gil Kane. He was a TA for Ray Palmer in the comics. Silas obviously takes over the role of mentor or colleague instead in the DCEU. And at the end of the film, we get a huge nod towards the character of Adam, and kind of a hint that it might be coming when Choi is revealed to be the director of nanotechnology and confirms that nanotech is definitely his thing. What were some of your favorite Easter eggs from the film? Were there any new additions in this cut that you loved? Are you hoping we get to see more of Zack Snyder's vision for the DCEU, or are you fine with this being the final chapter of that era? Let us know in the comments below. And speaking of comments, it's time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos, Top 10 Justice League Snyder Cut Biggest Differences. Scott Lewis comments, "We just finished it and it is amazing. Holy cow, I can't believe that someone looked at all of this and said, nah, shaking my head." Yeah, I 100% feel that. Like, I can't believe that this was the stuff that we decided to scrap, and it like makes the story just make a lot more sense and makes us care more. Everything just feels so much more meaningful in this cut. Nicole Din responds, "The movie lived up to the hype and I'm so happy." Yeah, I 100% feel you. This hype that everyone has built up, I was ready to kind of be like, well, it wasn't that, but actually it's so good. It totally lives up to the hype. I relinquish my thoughts before of it potentially being a bad movie. Never mind it. Last Days of Sanity shares, it definitely earned the 4-hour runtime. It fleshed out the characters so much better. It even did little things like getting rid of some jokes that were added in that just don't fit the tone. It completely changed the tone. Like, that's the thing that blows my mind. And yeah, it did it beautifully and kept some jokes that made sense and then got rid of some jokes that, you know, we probably didn't really need. And that's all the time we have for comments today. Be sure to comment below for a chance to have your thoughts and feels shouted out in a future video. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight. Till next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.